I've worked as a part-time cleaner for a small chain of Airbnb rentals along the Jersey coast for about 3 years now. It's quiet work, just me, a few sets of keys, and a list of checkouts I need to clean before the next guests arrive. Last spring, I was assigned a property near Cape May, a cozy 2-bedroom beach house perched at the end of a dead-end road, overlooking the water. It wasn't big, but it had charm. White curtains, pale blue walls, a wooden deck that looked out at the ocean. The owner, a retired man named Douglas, told me it had been empty for a couple of weeks. "Just the usual dust and sand," he said over the phone. "Shouldn't take you long." That morning, the air smelled like salt and rain. Seagulls echoed somewhere in the distance, and the wind kept tugging at my sleeves as I walked up to the porch. The door unlocked easily. Inside, everything seemed normal. Faint smell of cleaning spray from whoever did the last turnover and the hum of the fridge. I started my usual routine. Vacuum the rug, strip the beds, restock towels. But from the start, something felt off. It was the silence. Most beach rentals carry that distant ocean sound through the open windows, but inside this one, everything was still. Like the walls were swallowing the noise. I brushed it off. Maybe the windows were all shut tight. Upstairs, sunlight poured through the half-open blinds, catching dust in the air like glitter. The master bedroom had a full mirror above the dresser, and for a moment I thought I saw someone move behind me, just my reflection. I laughed quietly to myself. Working alone too much does that. Then I heard it, a soft creak from the hallway. Slow, deliberate. I froze, listening. Another step, this time heavier, like someone shifting their weight. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I peeked out into the hall, nothing but the railing and the narrow stairs leading down. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind. Maybe the floorboards were old, the kind that shift when the temperature changes. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I went back to cleaning, trying to ignore it. But a few minutes later, as I was scrubbing the bathroom counter, I noticed the mirror had fogged over slightly. Odd. The water hadn't been running long enough to cause that. And then I saw it. Across the fogged glass, written in faint finger strokes, were 2 words, "Still here." I just stared at it. My stomach dropped and the tiny hairs on my neck stood straight up. It didn't look fresh, more like someone had written it days ago, and the letters had reappeared from the condensation. That happens sometimes, when you clean mirrors. Old marks show up again. Except this wasn't my handwriting, and I'd never cleaned this place before. I wiped it off, trying to steady my breathing. The clock on the wall ticked softly, but every sound now felt louder. The waves outside, the wind pressing against the siding, everything seemed to echo through the house. I told myself again it was fine. People leave weird stuff behind all the time. Messages, doodles, love notes. But I couldn't stop glancing at the mirror, half expecting those words to come back. That's when I heard footsteps. Upstairs, heavy ones, right above me. I froze mid-step. My bucket handle rattled as my hands started shaking. I called out again, "Douglas? Is anyone supposed to be here?" Even though I knew he wasn't. No answer. But I heard it again. A slow creak across the upstairs floor, then another, and another, then silence. I grabbed my phone and texted the owner. "Hey, is anyone else using the place? I think someone might be upstairs." No reply. Against every instinct screaming at me to leave, I started climbing the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last, the old wood groaning under my shoes. At the top, the hallway stretched into a dim corridor of closed doors. One, the master bedroom, was half shut. That's where I'd been earlier. My voice trembled. "Hello? If someone's here, I work for the owner. You're not in trouble." Nothing, but the air was wrong, thick, stale. Someone had been breathing in that room for too long. I pushed the door open with my foot. The blinds fluttered slightly, even though the window was closed. And on the mirror, the same one I had cleaned earlier, were the words again, "Still here." But this time there was a wet streak beneath the letters, like someone had traced them with a finger just moments ago. I took a step back. My reflection stared at me, wide-eyed and pale, as if even it didn't want to be there. Something shifted behind me, a faint sound, the creak of a closet door opening. My chest tightened. I turned, slowly. The door was cracked open just an inch, dark inside. I don't know why I did it, but I reached out and nudged it wider. It moved with a long groan of wood against carpet. Nothing inside, just empty hangers swinging softly. And then, a whisper. Right behind my ear, low, male. You shouldn't be here. I dropped everything and bolted down the stairs, tripping over the rug as I ran. My phone fell from my pocket, but I didn't care. I flung the front door open and sprinted to my car. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't get the keys into the ignition for a good 10 seconds. When the engine finally roared to life, I looked up and saw the upstairs curtain move. Like someone had just stepped away from the window. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mirror. Those words, and I kept hearing the whisper, like it had followed me home, replaying in the dark corners of my apartment. The next morning, I drove straight to the local police station. I didn't care if they thought I was crazy. I just wanted someone else to check that house. 2 officers came with me, both middle-aged, both calm in that practiced way cops are when they've seen too much. One of them, Officer Reeves, joked that it was probably a squatter or a raccoon. But as we pulled up to the property, I could tell from his face he didn't believe that either. The house looked different in daylight. Still bright, still quiet, but emptier somehow. The curtains hung limp. The salt air felt colder. They told me to wait by the car while they searched inside. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally Reeves came out, squinting in the sun. Nothing up there, he said. Doors locked from the inside. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. I told him about the words on the mirror. He nodded, like he was humoring me, and said they'd dust the place just in case. But the other officer looked uneasy. He muttered something under his breath, something like, "Did you smell that upstairs?" I wanted to ask, but they waved me off. That night, I got a text from Douglas, the owner. "Appreciate you calling the police. They didn't find anything, but maybe take a break from that unit for a week." He didn't have to tell me twice. Still, curiosity has a way of chewing at you. A few days later, I went back, not to clean, just to see. The air was still and heavy, like the house had been holding its breath, waiting for me. I stepped inside, flashlight in hand. Everything looked untouched. Brooms still leaning against the wall, sheets folded, my old bucket in the corner, but something smelled off. A sour, almost metallic odor coming from upstairs. I hesitated at the bottom step. Then I heard it. The faintest creak above me, like a single footstep. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I climbed. The master bedroom door was open this time. Inside, dust floated lazily in the beam of light, and the mirror was fogged again. Same words, still here. Only now below them, faint but visible, another line had appeared, "Welcome back." I whispered no under my breath and stumbled backward. The air felt wrong, humid, almost alive. And then, from inside the closet, the soft sound of breathing. Long, shallow, uneven. I pointed the flashlight toward it. The slats of the closet door glowed white, but through them I could see movement, something shifting slowly inside. My voice cracked. "Who's there?" No answer. Then, 3 knocks from inside the door. I bolted again, down the stairs and out to the car, heart hammering so hard it blurred my vision. When I looked back one last time, the upstairs light flicked on by itself. I didn't go back for a long while after that. 2 months later, Douglas called. He sounded shaken. He told me the new guests who'd rented the beach house had complained about strange noises at night. Footsteps, whispers, things moving on their own. He wanted me to just check that everything was clean. I told him absolutely not. But he said the couple had left early and he didn't have anyone else. So I went. By the time I got there, the rain was coming down in sheets. The lights in the house flickered weakly against the storm. Inside, everything was damp and cold. The bedroom door was closed. For a long minute, I just stood there, listening to the storm hammering against the roof. Then I turned the knob. The smell hit me first, wet wood and something else, like mildew and copper. And on the bed, the guest book, open to the most recent page, scrawled across the last entry, written in thick, wet ink. He never checked out. My pulse froze. The handwriting wasn't mine. It wasn't Douglas's either. But next to it, someone had drawn a crude outline of a figure standing by a mirror. Behind me, the bathroom door creaked. I turned, and through the cracked opening, I could see it again. That same mirror, fogged over. This time the message was longer. "Still here. You shouldn't have left me." I dropped the book and ran. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, like a voice chasing me down the path. When I got to my car, I looked back, and through the upstairs window, a pale face was pressed against the glass, watching. I left Cape May that night and never went back. A week later, Douglas sold the house. He told me he'd gotten tired of the bad reviews. But a few months after that, I got a message from an unknown number. No text, just a photo. It was my old cleaning bucket, sitting in that same bedroom, mirror behind it. And on the mirror, faint but clear, written in fog, "Miss you." Police said no one was inside, but when I came back the next week, that mirror still fogged over, and the same words appeared again. Story 2. The locked bedroom at Driftwood House. When my wife and I rented the Driftwood House, we thought we'd found a hidden gem, a 2-story coastal rental sitting just outside a quiet town in Maine, far from traffic, tourists, and noise. It was off-season, so the owner offered us a deal that sounded too good to be real. $900 a month, utilities included, as long as you don't mind a little maintenance. The place wasn't perfect, but it had charm: peeling white paint, creaky steps, and that constant smell of salt air and pine from the dunes behind it. The owner, an older man named Mr. Cross, met us there the day we moved in. He wore a heavy brown coat and spoke with a slow, weary voice. He walked us through each room, explaining quirks: which window didn't close, which outlet sparked, how the boiler kicked when it wanted to. Then upstairs, at the very end of the hall, he stopped. "This room stays locked," he said, tapping the heavy padlock that hung from the door latch. "Storage only. Don't worry about it." I asked what was inside. He smiled faintly. "Just old furniture, family stuff, nothing worth seeing." He handed me the keys, but not for that room. And before I could ask again, he added, "Leave that one alone, please. You'll understand later." At the time, I thought he meant it was just a weird landlord thing. Every old rental has one, a mystery closet or crawl space where the owner stores junk. But that door, even then, it felt different. The metal knob was colder than the others, and as we unpacked that first night, I swear I heard something, faint, almost imperceptible, from behind it. A soft scratch. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. We settled into a rhythm. Coffee on the porch, short walks on the beach, quiet dinners while storms rolled across the horizon. The locked room didn't bother us much, until it did. It started with that same sound, scratching, faint but consistent. Always late, just as we were about to sleep, like nails brushing wood, a slow drag, pause, then another. My wife, Emma, thought it was just mice. But when I pressed my ear to the door, it didn't sound like scurrying. It sounded deliberate, measured. Then one night, I saw it, a soft orange glow under the door, like candlelight, flickering. I called for Emma to come see, but when she stepped into the hallway, it was gone. We brushed it off again. But from that night on, neither of us slept right. Every few nights, the scratching returned, sometimes followed by a faint thud, like something shifting inside. Once we heard what sounded like a small breath, a quiet exhale pressed right against the wood. By week 3, Emma refused to go upstairs after dark, and honestly, I couldn't blame her. A month later, during a bad coastal storm, we heard something new, not scratching this time, knocking. 3 slow taps, then silence. Then again. We froze in bed, listening. It came exactly every 15 seconds, rhythmic like a clock. I finally grabbed a flashlight and went into the hall. The knocking stopped as soon as I stepped onto the creaky floorboards. The light under the door flickered once, then vanished. I stood there for what felt like forever, waiting for it to start again. But nothing. Just the sound of waves slamming the rocks outside. When I turned to head back, I noticed something strange. A thin strip of paper poking out from under the locked door. I knelt down, hands shaking, and pulled it free. It was a small piece of notebook paper, yellowed with age, folded neatly. Inside, written in faded blue ink, were 4 words: "Please let me out." I woke Emma and showed her. She thought it was some sick prank. Maybe Mr. Cross left it there years ago, some twisted joke for renters. But when we tried to call him, his number went straight to voicemail. We couldn't sleep after that. We left the note on the kitchen counter, both of us staring at it like it might move. By morning, the paper was gone. I searched the counter, the floor, the trash. Nothing. I even checked back at the door. And that's when I noticed it again. Another paper. Same kind, same folded shape. But this time the message said something different. "Don't go in." I called the landlord again. No answer. We thought about leaving, but the storm that week had knocked out half the roads, so we stayed, trapped with that door. That night, the sound came again. Not scratching, not knocking, something heavier. A dragging sound, slow and strained, like furniture scraping across the floor inside the room. We lay awake, holding hands, counting each sound until dawn. By morning, everything was quiet again. But curiosity has teeth. By the 5th night of hearing it, I couldn't take it anymore. When the sun set, I went upstairs with a hammer and flashlight. Emma begged me not to. But I had to know. I struck the padlock once, it barely budged. Twice, the metal warped. Third hit, it snapped clean open. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. The hallway air suddenly felt heavy, humid, salty, like the ocean had seeped into the walls. I turned the knob and pushed. The room was pitch black. My flashlight beam revealed sheets draped over furniture. A small bed frame, a rocking chair, a dresser. Everything coated in dust and sea salt. No footprints. No sign anyone had been there in years. But then I saw it, a small handprint on the inside of the door. Child-sized, fresh. And before I could process it, from the closet a soft knock echoed. 3 times, same rhythm. For a long time I just stood there in that stale, salt-damp air staring at the closed closet door. The beam of my flashlight trembled over the old wooden panels. Each knock was slow, measured, like it was waiting for me to answer. Emma called from the hall, voice barely a whisper. "Don't," she said. "Please, Aaron, just don't." But I couldn't move away. Something about that sound didn't feel threatening. It felt lonely. I took one step closer, then another. The knocking stopped. Silence. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. And then, just as I started to back away, a quiet, broken voice from inside said, "Is it morning yet?" I nearly dropped the flashlight. Emma screamed from behind me. The bulb flickered out, plunging everything into darkness. For a few seconds, I couldn't even breathe. Just the sound of waves and wind outside, and something shifting behind that closet door. Then, the smell. Salt and dust, yes, but something else underneath. Like wet fabric that had been buried too long. I stumbled out of the room and slammed the door behind me. We barricaded ourselves in the guest room that night, listening as faint knocking echoed again, this time from inside the locked bedroom. Every few minutes, the house creaked like someone was walking up and down the hallway. By morning, the air felt wrong, heavier. Even sunlight couldn't chase it away. When we went back upstairs, the padlock, the one I'd broken, was back on the door. But it wasn't the same one. This one was new, shiny, untouched. Neither of us said a word. We just stared. I tried to call Mr. Cross again. Nothing. Then I tried the rental company. They said the property wasn't even listed under his name anymore. No record of any Mr. Cross owning it in over a decade. That's when Emma started crying. We packed in silence. Every floorboard creak made us jump. By the time we loaded the car, fog had rolled in off the coast. As I turned the ignition, I looked up toward the second-floor window, the one that belonged to the locked bedroom. And for half a second, I swear I saw someone standing there, small frame, barely visible behind the glass, watching. We left Driftwood House that morning and never looked back. But that night at the motel, something strange happened. When I opened my duffel bag, I found a folded piece of paper sitting neatly on top of my clothes, same faded, yellowed kind. I hadn't packed it. This one read, "Thank you." The handwriting was shaky, childlike, exactly like the notes we found before. I showed Emma. She just stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "It followed us." A week later, police finally returned my calls. I told them everything. The scratching, the notes, the voice. They said they'd send someone to check. 2 days after, an officer called me back. He sounded uneasy. Said the property had been vacant for over 10 years. The original owners, the Whitlocks, had lived there with their daughter. She disappeared one night after being locked in her bedroom as punishment during a storm. They searched for days, never found her body. A month later, the family moved out, and the house changed hands several times, each owner complaining of noises upstairs, furniture moving on its own, and locked doors that opened themselves. The officer paused before adding, "That room at the end of the hall, it was sealed years ago. There's no working lock on that door anymore." I didn't know what to say. When he hung up, I sat in silence, staring at the wall. That night, while unpacking in our new place, I heard it again, faint, rhythmic. 3 soft knocks, from inside the closet of our new bedroom. Emma looked at me, pale as a ghost. Neither of us moved. Then slowly, a folded piece of paper slid out from the crack beneath the door. I picked it up, heart pounding. Unfolded it. Same faded paper, same handwriting. Still here. The landlord told me not to open the locked bedroom. He didn't tell me why. Now I know. Some doors aren't meant to be opened, because once you do, they might not close behind you. Story 3. The camera in the ceiling vent. When we booked the place, it looked perfect. A tiny seaside bungalow, clean, modern, with a deck that overlooked the ocean. The listing said, private, quiet, perfect for couples. It was supposed to be a break. Just me, my boyfriend Ethan, and 3 days away from work, from noise, from everything. The owner, a man named Jeff, met us out front. He was polite, almost too polite. The kind of smile that doesn't touch the eyes. He walked us through the place, pointing out little quirks. The bathroom light flickered sometimes, the front door stuck a bit when humidity was high, and this one I remember word for word. The vent in the bedroom hums at night, but don't worry, it's just the fan. At the time, I didn't think much of it. That first night, I couldn't sleep. The room was perfect, the sheets crisp, the sea breeze cool. But something about the ceiling vent bothered me. It wasn't the hum, it was a faint click every few seconds, almost like a camera shutter. I told Ethan, he laughed, said it was probably metal expanding or something. But then I saw it, a faint red glimmer inside the vent, like a tiny light blinking on and off. I froze. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Ethan looked up, squinting, and said, "It's just the smoke detector." Except it wasn't. The smoke detector was on the other side of the room. The next morning, I checked again in daylight. The vent looked ordinary, but when I leaned closer, I could see what looked like a small lens, half hidden behind the grate. I mentioned it to Jeff when he dropped by to check the plumbing. He smiled too wide. "Oh, that's not a camera," he said. "It's a motion sensor for airflow." But later that afternoon, I noticed something else. 3 tiny holes drilled just above the mirror in the bathroom, perfectly spaced. And the same faint red flicker if you looked at the right angle. That night, I tried to brush it off. Ethan told me I was overthinking, that rentals always have weird wiring. He kissed my forehead and fell asleep in minutes. But I lay there awake, staring at that vent. Every few minutes, it blinked. One red pulse, then darkness, then the faint click. I started recording on my phone, holding it toward the ceiling. After 5 minutes, I replayed the footage. There it was, a single, unmistakable flash of red. I woke Ethan again. He groaned, rubbed his face, and said, "Fine, I'll check it tomorrow." The next day, I did something he wouldn't. While he went into town for coffee, I pulled over a chair and unscrewed the vent cover. Behind it, thin wires running neatly into the drywall, and one small black lens no bigger than a button, not a sensor, a camera. I nearly dropped the vent cover. The wires disappeared into the ceiling toward the hallway. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone trying to take a picture. Then I saw something else. The wires ran toward a locked door beside the kitchen, one we hadn't been shown during the tour. When Ethan got back, I showed him the footage. He went pale. Then, for the first time, he believed me. We tried the doorknob to that utility closet. Locked tight, no key in the drawers, none in the hallway. But when we leaned close, we could hear a faint electrical hum inside. And something that sounded like fans. That's when Ethan found a thin bundle of wires running along the baseboard, barely hidden by the molding. We followed them all the way to a power strip near the door. And on that strip, a tiny green light labeled "Rec." I felt sick. My hands went cold. We were being recorded. Ethan whispered, "We're leaving tonight." We started packing fast, throwing clothes into bags. But halfway through I heard it again, the faint click. Only this time it wasn't coming from the vent, it was coming from the mirror. A single, perfect red blink, reflected in the glass. That's when we realized there were more. A second lens hidden behind the corner shelf, another above the window frame. There were multiple cameras watching us from every angle. We didn't even stop to think. We ripped our suitcases shut and headed for the door. But when Ethan turned the handle, it didn't budge. The latch was locked from the outside. We froze. From the vent above, the red light blinked again. Then again. Faster this time. And underneath that steady hum of electricity, I swear I could hear breathing. Ethan whispered, "Check your phone, call someone." No service. Not even one bar. He grabbed the fire poker from beside the fireplace and started toward the utility door. "I'll break it open," he said. The closer he got, the louder the hum grew, until it turned into a faint static hiss like white noise. Then he hit the lock, a metallic crack. The door swung open. Inside, the room was small, windowless, lit by a single lamp. There was a desk, a router, a pile of external drives, and 3 monitors showing live feeds, our feeds. One camera showed the bedroom, one the bathroom, one the deck, all still recording, and on the corner of the desk, a folder labeled Guests. Each file had a name, a date, and a photo. Some of the names had been crossed out. The last one was mine. Maria K. That's when we heard the sound. A car engine pulling up the gravel driveway. Ethan looked at me. "Maria?" he whispered. "That's his car." Ethan and I froze. The car outside idled for a few seconds, then the headlights swept across the front windows. It was Jeff's silver SUV, the same one from the listing photos, the one that had driven off just that morning. He wasn't supposed to be here. Ethan killed the lamp in the office, plunging us into darkness. We crouched by the desk, the faint glow from the monitors casting our faces in cold blue light. Outside, a door slammed, footsteps on the gravel, slow, heavy. Then, the sound of a key sliding into the lock. The front door creaked open. We could hear him humming, a calm, tuneless hum that carried through the hallway like he'd done this before, like he owned the silence. Ethan whispered, "We go out the back." I nodded, but as we moved, one of the monitors flickered, static for a moment, then showed a new feed. A camera from outside the house. Jeff, standing on the porch, smiling into the lens. He was holding something, a small remote in his hand. Then the door clicked again. The lock behind us, the one we'd broken, snapped back into place. He'd locked it remotely. We were trapped. Ethan whispered, "He's controlling it." He grabbed the poker again, motioning me toward the back deck. The hallway light flicked on by itself, then off, then on again. I didn't realize I was shaking until I dropped my phone. It hit the floor with a crack. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The humming stopped. Then Jeff's voice, low and close, from somewhere near the living room. "You shouldn't have gone in there." Ethan pushed me toward the sliding glass door to the deck. It was our only way out. He yanked it open, or tried to. It was jammed. We could see the beach through the glass, silver moonlight on sand, the dark stretch of water beyond. Freedom was right there. Ethan hit the glass with the poker. Once, twice. The third hit shattered it. The alarm didn't go off. Just a shrill electronic beep from the router room. And then, for the first time, I saw Jeff clearly. He stepped out of the shadows in the hallway, still holding the remote, smiling faintly. His other hand gripped a long black cable, coiled like a leash. "You weren't supposed to see it yet," he said softly. "You weren't on until Friday." We didn't wait. Ethan shoved me through the broken door and we ran barefoot across the deck. Glass and splinters cut into my feet, but I didn't stop. Behind us, I heard Jeff shout something. Then the sound of footsteps pounding after us. The beach was empty. No other houses, no lights, nothing but the wind and the ocean. We sprinted up the dunes, the sand giving way under our feet. Halfway up, I tripped. When I turned, I saw him, standing in the shattered doorway, holding something small and blinking. A camera. He lifted it like he was filming us. Then that faint click again. Ethan grabbed my hand and pulled me up the hill. We didn't look back. We made it to the main road. No cars, no signal, just miles of coastline. We walked until dawn, until we found an old gas station with lights on. The attendant called the police. When the officers arrived, we told them everything. The cameras, the feeds, the files. They went to the property that afternoon and found nothing. No cameras, no router, no files, not even a vent above the bed, just a freshly patched piece of drywall. The owner? They said the property had been rented out through a third-party host. No one named Jeff was listed anywhere. For days, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red light blinking in the dark. I saw the lens staring back. Ethan tried to comfort me, said we were safe now, that whoever it was, he couldn't find us. But 2 weeks later, something strange happened. He woke up to find our car tires slashed. A note under the wiper. It said only, "You forgot to sign the release form." We moved out of our apartment the next morning, changed our numbers, filed reports that went nowhere, and for a while it was quiet, peaceful even. Until one night I woke to a faint click. It came from the ceiling above our bed. For a moment I froze, too afraid to move. But when I finally looked up, there was nothing there. No vent, no light, just darkness. I told myself it was just a dream, that I was hearing things. But the next morning, Ethan showed me something on his phone. An email. No subject line, no sender. Just one attachment, a photo, taken from above our bed, of us sleeping. I moved again after that. Different city, different job. I don't book rentals anymore. I don't even stay in hotels. But sometimes, when I can't sleep, I still see that vent, the little red blink in the dark. And when I finally drift off, I dream I'm back in that room. The sea outside, the hum in the walls. And from the ceiling, that camera light starts to glow again. Steady, unblinking, watching. We escaped through the back deck and drove barefoot to the nearest gas station. 2 weeks later, the listing disappeared. But the vent from that room still shows up when I dream.